Sorry guys, I'll be with you in a sec. I just gotta bomb this thing. Damn it. Okay, let's try this again.
That explosion was one of the sweetest sights of the war for me.
Yep, I totally survived that piss-ass explosion. It's just like riding a bike. This week, we'll be looking at this season's most overhyped shooter, Battlefield 1, the game that blew off everyone's socks when Electronic Arts announced an entry for their major franchise of previous Call of Duty ripoffs that would be set in the ignored setting of the Great War, that 19-teens period of political rivalry, technological races, and pointless onslaught of which nobody won jack shit. A concept coming from Electronic Arts made me suspicious, like when the neighborhood bully suddenly decided to open a lemonade stand on the corner. However, after a pleasantly short 2-hour install, once the game started, those fears dissipated almost immediately with a pre-rendered trailer-friendly opening movie that was going for a respectable Horrors of War type story set inside a ridiculously overblown salted earth battlefield where in 1 minute, the player is shown at least 100 soldier deaths culminating in an African-American infantry division member and an Axis soldier dropping their weapons in that Christmas truce-style recognition of humanity. It was that type of strong, powerful opener that could have easily carried the first half of the game by itself, if DICE hadn't almost immediately backed down from making that point. Battlefield 1 is a game that was produced in that modern-era episodic fashion released in a full product because instead of one whole game, this shooter is comprised of 5 mini-stories, and that's a major issue, because it looks like each episode was created by separate teams all locked in different closets for 6 months. The biggest problem is that the game's tone is all over the place. The first episode takes us through the story of a British tank crew who's ordered to break through enemy lines, and after some intense fighting on the way there, they get lost in a haunted forest where they have to silently murder all their enemies, and at the end, spoiler alert, the tank commander is caught in a suicide homicide that destroys the tank, and that was a serious look at the depressing normalcy of this conflict. Then the second episode starts with a quirky Han Solo-esque pilot and thief who manages to bluff his way into the Royal Air Force with a silly sidekick. The episodic approach with nothing shared between any of the stories besides the setting ends up watering down the whole thing to utter blandness. And while the characters are fleshed out and some of the chapters are incredibly fun, this game also doesn't have much of an ending besides a final cinematic that just recycles footage from other parts of the game. And then there's the other thing. Battlefield 1 doesn't have an Axis protagonist throughout the entire game, and they're essentially put into the de facto villain role for the reason that this game needed some Nazis, apparently. The German Empire was not the Nazis. Stop treating them like the Nazis. They were allied with the Austro-Hungarians, which you have also put in this game, so are you really gonna say the Austrians are also the Nazis? Is that where this is going? That's like saying my dog is evil because it's sitting next to my devil cat. It just doesn't make any sense, and you know it. You knew that this game needed a look at the Axis side of things because this was a conflict with no clear villain. There were no good guys in World War I, and the fact that the villains are your stereotypically voiced Germans in iron helmets make this game feel like an HD rendition of Call of Duty 3 rather than the serious look at the human loss of this stupid conflict that was promised right at the start. It is a glaring absence by the development team that did do their research to get the history right. Although, I don't think that the Italians had access to bulletproof armor and piercing minigun technology in 1918. But heck, any reason to have a Doom-style gratuitous violence jibathon is fine by me, even if Battlefield 1 pulls the Modern Warfare 3 trick of taking away the fun equipment halfway through the mission. Yeah, some of the episodes are a right old fun time and a half, but none of them have a real satisfying end either, since the player is given about 5 seconds to care about their new protagonist before being dropped into another battle with the Nazis not Nazis. One thing the game does have between all of its chapters is the great idea to show the horrors of this conflict through the eyes of specific characters to show them the realities of living through this shitstorm. I just wish that didn't also mean that all of the problems will be lumped onto my character like we're in some bad company super soldier division. All of the episodes have a strong narrative between them, and all the characters are likable enough, and the ultimate thing is that each episode is cinematic enough to feel like they were ripped straight from the History Special production team. You could slot in any of the episodes in the middle of a World War marathon and no one would bat an eye, especially the overblown Lawrence of Arabia chapter. That's how committed to the concept DICE was. However, the other thing almost all the episodes share is the stealth mechanics from Hardline. Unlike Battlefield Hardline, where you could disable enemies at a distance and were granted a healthy suite of stealth tools, the Battlefield 1 stealth is so horrendously implemented that you could get spotted and taken apart within 10 seconds, and the only tools your 19-teen ass has to hand are the shell casings again, your melee attack, and some promised support that never arrives. Combine that with requirements to murder everyone you're stealthing around, enemy types that can't be killed with melee attacks because of their super armor, and a tagging mechanic that doesn't mark anyone unless you look specifically at them for 5 voyeuristic seconds, which is hard considering everyone's armor is blending into the background, and you get stealth sections that only make you want to throw your controller into a wall anytime they're even mentioned in this campaign, much less actually playing them. It's a shame because the gameplay mechanics are on point in this game, even if the regular shooting is let down by the main character having the health bar of a bedridden hamster. The vehicles are amazing fun to control, intuitive and appropriately destructive to anything standing in its way, making the tank the random vandalism engine, and that's freaking fun. Flying the plane is intense and easy as pie to control, and its 8-fold rocket launcher is also incredibly fun. And defeating the Canavar train is a difficult and satisfying victory, making it the final boss of this game, rather than just the last thing you have to do to beat it. But with nearly everything working in this game's favor, the fact that EA and DICE decided to go this episodic route means that the game that everyone was hoping to be the grand door opener to the return of the historical shooter Golden Age didn't happen. There's not a lot that can be said with a plot in the Great War other than these survival stories with great characters, and unless you put in the work to level out the playing field, these games will just end up as your typical World War II shooter where you're set up against the comical accent Germans attacking the Allies out of a deep-seated grudge against freedom. Ultimately, Battlefield 1 is a game that did a bunch of good things and a bunch of bad things, and the final entry in the series ends up as a savory mixed bag rendered in glorious HDO vision. And with that, the current Battlefield series as it stands is finished, and next week we'll be continuing down the exploration of Shooter Season 2016, and seeing if any of the other new series iterations will be worth showing off to future generations. But until then, I'll leave you guys with a non-horrific final scoreboard, and an old-timey victory for gamers. I'll see you guys next time across No Man's Land.